This programme is sponsored by Bet365.
Thanks for sticking with us, or welcome along if you just tuned in. You're in the right place for some football conversation. We're live until 8:30 tonight, and then the boxing takes over. Martin Kieran's come from the commentary box to join us. It must be so nice for you to commentate over the kind of goals that you used to score.
I've never scored, maybe as a schoolboy, I might have scored a goal in the playground.
It wasn't a serious question. Let's move on with the show. Take a quick look at the headlines for this evening, because we saw an amazing goal here and we've seen some amazing scorelines today, including that man Aaron Moyes scoring against Manchester United. As I've said on social media, only two teams have beaten Manchester United this season, and they are Huddersfield and
Real Madrid.
Huddersfield and Real Madrid. It's a good number, isn't it? Batman returns. Michy Batshuayi came on, scored a goal once again, and was busy on social media after that as well. So it was a good day for him with a couple of goals. And Fox is fixed. Maybe there should be a question mark on there rather than a statement, because of course we saw this last time they had a new manager. They won their first game in charge with the new boss. Today that man was Michael Appleton. Just what the future holds for Leicester. We'll talk about that during the show as well. But first, we can only start in one place, and that's Huddersfield.
It's half time, it's 2-0. I'm absolutely beside myself. I've lost my voice. I think I've burst a blood from still in my neck. Can't believe it. Absolutely fantastic goals. Aaron Moy, like, just hit it, flew straight in, and then Dipuacha held off his man really well, smashed it home. 2-0. Good.
That was one of the greatest performances I have ever seen from Huddersfield Town. That is how you play against a top six side. David Wagner got his tactics spot on today, and United just didn't have any answers. They threw everything at us, including the kitchen sink. They just couldn't find a way through. Town was superb today. We've just beaten Man United, and we thoroughly deserved it. Everybody, every single player gave their all, played out their skin. Absolutely amazing. In fact, bring on Liverpool next week. Town are back.
Love that, the confidence of a newly promoted team. And this was a tweet from Sir Patrick Stewart. He actually sent this at half-time in the game, so maybe he was living in the future because he knew what was going on. So happy and so proud, he says. And there is something about this confidence that promoted teams bring with themselves to the Premier League, isn't it? They just sort of remarkably pick up where they left off the previous season.
Well, it is remarkable. They've already got more points than I thought they'd get for the whole season. It's right? Been, I mean, to beat Manchester United today, I mean, what does that do for your confidence? Yeah. You know, Wagner will feel now that his players are Premier League players proper. Because when you come up, there's that suspicion in the back of your mind, do I belong at this level? Well, now they surely do, and that is a brilliant result for them tonight. But Mourinho, I can't help thinking, you know, leaving Rashford on the bench and Mkhitaryan, he's got really what he deserves. He's taken away some of the freedom from this team. He put the handbrake on them. It's not a tap you can turn on and off, and they couldn't respond today with enough to beat a Huddersfield
United in just a couple of moments. But first, one man who has to take so much credit for the way things are at Huddersfield is David Wagner, and this is what he had to say.
This is a very, very proud moment. We all together know how huge this win is for us, Huddersfield Town, that we've beaten Man United. I think it's very important that we all together are very humble, that we are very realistic and have no unrealistic expectations. I think we work with this football club now nearly since 2 years on the extraordinary, day in, day out, but we cannot take these performances for guaranteed. And this is very important that we stay humble, totally humble. This brought us this little bit of success which we had so far in these 2 years, and this is nothing we will change in the future.
He's so impressive, isn't he? He went in there and made such a difference, and I like the fact that he goes and beats Man United, and the first message is stay humble. He's not going to allow his players to get carried away, is he?
Well, they can't, can they? I mean, you know, as a newly promoted side, they've got that confidence, that run of results, and that breeds confidence to the team. Home form was crucial as well to a side that you would almost, as a lot of people have, written them off as relegation teams straight away. So, yeah, keeping a lid on it and not getting too excited or carried away is a sensible approach, I'd say.
You know, the Premier League, you can get brought back down to earth with a bump just like that.
No, but not with that type of man. Look, everybody's trying to overplay football, you know, too much possession, too many passes, but these guys give themselves a chance. They outworked Manchester United today, and that's why they won the game. Mourinho said it after the game, they deserve to win, and I think just through sheer effort and good organisation, the manager's terrific. You know, they press, they work hard as a team, and it's a remarkable achievement for a team just to come up, to beat a Manchester United who have so many top players is an incredible achievement.
I think next up, though, Jurgen Klopp is Liverpool away.
It's Liverpool, yeah.
And, you know, that's someone he's worked alongside, and that was a great occasion. So we'd be wanting to keep a lid on things because he knows next week it could get really worked at Anfield.
Two men who know each other's games inside out as well. Loads of comments actually coming in on social media about Huddersfield. Helen Armitage, best result ever. I'm a Huddersfield fan. I'm over the moon with today's historic results. Sarah Collinson, living the dream. Happy Huddersfield fan tonight after an historic 2-1 win at home to Manchester United. They're all using the word historic, the Huddersfield fans. I wonder what word the Manchester United fans would use to describe that game. Here are the thoughts of Jose.
When I lose matches, I like to lose matches because the opponent was better than us, had more quality than us. When you lose a football match because of attitude, that's really bad. And I heard that Ander Herrera is in the flash interviews, and he's saying that the attitude and the desire was poor. Oh my God! When a player says that, and when a player feels that, I think they should all go to the press conference and explain why. Because I can't explain.
Not holding back. That's a clear message to his players, and they'll see and hear that from him, won't they?
Well, Sir Alex used to say, you know, when we used to play in games like that, concentration was the most important thing, and it is. And if Manchester United are going to play Huddersfield, the only way they're not going to win the game is if they're not prepared or they don't put that effort in. By far the better team technically, but that's the beautiful thing about this league, that you can almost get outfought, outworked. And I think it kind of, you saw with Leicester, you know, a couple of seasons ago, it almost creates its own momentum. And Huddersfield today, they did it against one of the best teams in our country, Manchester United. And I think that will hurt Mourinho more than anything, the fact that they were outworked. And didn't bring the effort that they normally have on any given game.
We saw that with Crystal Palace against Chelsea last week, didn't we? The first half, you know, talent-wise, ability-wise, Chelsea should be wiping the floor with the greatest respect to Palace, but because they didn't put the effort in, didn't put the work in, very much like what Mourinho has alluded to there, you're going to get beaten by sides.
Reputation counts for nothing when you play in the Premier League. That's the beauty of this league. You have to earn the right to be champions. They didn't play like champions today, and that would have embarrassed Mourinho. There'd be an internal discussion about attitude and application.
And is that a smart move from him? Well, we've seen in the past, he's been critical of players. It hasn't always ended well for him or the club he's been at.
It is a smart move because it put it out there, make it public, and then the fans will be insistent that they give everything they've got to give in every football match, and that's the only way. And it was always going to be the way, because if you look at what City are achieving just across the road, the noisy neighbours, they are playing a brand of football now which looks like it's going to make them champions. But there's a long, long way to go, of course we know that, but they've got to match that with a pragmatic approach which they've showed recently at Anfield. But somehow for me that sort of stopped this juggernaut of Manchester United moving the way it was supposed to. He tried to switch it back on today and it didn't happen, and maybe he's a part of that problem himself.
Lindelof's play for the second goal from Huddersfield looked like something you'd see on a football field on a Sunday morning. What's his immediate future at United, do you think?
Wow, he's really, really struggled. I mean, obviously at Benfica he was, you know, he played incredibly well in the Champions League, some great performances, but we saw him against Real Madrid in that Super Cup. He really struggled. And today, I mean, both goals he was involved in. And look, I think he's almost thrust into action. Phil Jones went off injured, and he's come on and really, really struggled. And I think the thing for Mourinho is you have to earn his trust. And I think today, I think he's lost some of that with his performance.
OK, I think I'm right in saying that United spent the same on him as Spurs spent on Vertonghen and Alderweireld about. And look at the difference. Right, let's talk about Chelsea. And this is from John Cross, who is a journalist for the Mirror. He says, I'm quite sure Silva has the potential to manage at the very top, but Conte's substitutions were decisive. And they were today. It was a funny old game, wasn't it? Because suddenly we were looking at that thinking, hold on a minute. Chelsea are in all sorts of trouble, but they showed real fighting spirit. There's no question, is there, that those players are playing for their manager?
Well, I thought that was there in the midweek in the Champions League, where they found themselves in a titanic struggle there, and they showed character and personality, and we've just seen the likes of John Terry and people disappear from the football club, and now it's about building new personalities for the future. But I do feel that the tactics a little bit was the Vogue system was back three last year. Everyone's had a good look at it, and they've looked like they've been coming off second best. But the changes he made to make them win that game, the manager's really up for a fight, and it's a real struggle for the Chelsea this season, all the games they're playing.
They should have been 4-1 down, remarkably. I mean, Watford had some incredible chances regardless, and they literally should have been 4-1 up. And credit Conte, he made some changes, but they were thoroughly outplayed for large spells of that game. Batshuayi comes on and has a massive impact, as he does off the bench. But Chelsea should have lost that game today if Watford were clinical.
Yeah. Go on. I was going to say that'd be the concern from any Chelsea supporters' perspective, that had they come on the wrong side of the result today, with the chances that Watford had, how far off the pace would they in the title race? Because there's a lot of points between them already. Can they afford to slip up anymore?
It's 9 points, isn't it, Chelsea to City at the moment? They're not out of it yet, are they?
No, but it's almost, they're so excellent, Man City, watching them every week, that's in the back of your mind. And then the heads-to-heads when you play each other are huge, and they're massive, because they're going to take 3 points, City, off of all of the also-rans. They do. They give every team, don't they, a good hiding, really, when you see what they're capable of. So when you come to play each other, I mean, the Manchester United derby, which will come up in a few months' time, is going to be...
The Manchester United derby. City fans won't like you calling it that.
Well, the Manchester...
Yeah, exactly. Got to be careful with little things like that.
Derby for so many times, but yeah, that's going to be a massive game.
There's talk, as there always is, when a team starts to struggle. Have they got the strength and depth? Have they got the quality? And as usual, when you talk about that with Chelsea, we roll out this. There's not one page of these players, but in fact there's two. The number of Chelsea players on loan. Let's take the first name there, Tammy Abraham. If you're scoring for goals...
Why is he not playing that? I don't understand. Why would you loan him? Just keep him there on the bench.
It's just what they do, isn't it? It seems to be the way that they work. They put a player out to see if they're good enough, and it's worked for Christensen. Maybe it'll work for Abraham.
There's also players that have left the club that you would say that are performing now at other Premier League sides, that you'd question whether they were getting the starting lineup as well. There's a lot of players there.
It's quite a remarkable number of players. And when you're dealing with so many players, it's no wonder one or two slip through your fingers. And I think Abraham's is one of those. Loftus-Cheek, you could say, is another one. And if he's saying he hasn't got players available, well, who's allowed those players to leave the football club? Because, you know, someone else must be making the decisions of personnel leaving the club to go on loan.
Is it healthy for a club to have that many players on loan, some of whom, of course, are on loan in the Premier League and can play against Chelsea's rivals and can't play against Chelsea?
Jake, they shouldn't be allowed to have 35 players on loan. It shouldn't.
Why not?
The Premier League shouldn't allow it.
Why?
Because those players should be playing in small teams that need quality offensive players.
Well, they are, but they're on loan from Chelsea.
No, but they should play there full time. I know they get, say, 20 grand a week, some of these young kids, but it's not beneficial for their career. How many of those kids you never really ever hear from? Marco van Ginkel, how many times has he been on loan? He's been there for about 5 years, and he's been on loan about 4. They should be able to accumulate, is the word, that many players and have them on loan. I just don't agree with it. I think the Premier League should find a way to affect that. I don't think it's right.
I think, though, it's a legacy of the financial fair play, where they tried to stockpile players 4 or 5 years ago, and with the youth team players that they bring through. Every time you watch the 18s, the 23s play, they're the best there is, alongside Man City. And you'll look at those players and you cannot believe that there isn't light at the end of the tunnel for those players. Why they're not making it in. And we are seeing players that are potentially good enough, but they need their manager to believe in them. And Conte doesn't really seem to believe in the English way. Christensen is a youngster that he's coming through the club, so he will play young players, but it almost needs to be forced to play a player.
Supporters want to see homegrown players that come through the club playing in the first team as well. I'm sure they do. Yes, they want to see the stars there, but getting that balance, you know, some of the great sides that we've seen in the past have been a good mixture and combination between signing quality players but having some homegrown talent.
It makes everyone feel proud within the club, doesn't it? When one of the youngsters come through, when you came through at Bayern, people are, look, he's one of ours, he's coming through. You've got to give people that feeling at a football club, because they go into work every day working with nurturing these kids, and they never then end up in the first team.
These young kids, Dele Alli, that's the pathway you should follow. If you're 18, you should be playing men's football. You should be playing League One football, and then you should kick on. When you're 20 or 21 playing in Chelsea's second team, whatever it is, it's too late. It's too late. You need to be playing men's football at 18. And I think for these young kids, rather than being big academies, they should be playing in teams like the MK Dons or something similar, and be playing men's football every week.
How old were you when you won your first Champions League?
20, I think. But you know
stat,
what?
isn't it?
No, but Jake, you know what? I played men's football. I played the equivalent of League One. I came out of the youth team and I played the equivalent of League One men's football. So it was really difficult, older men, and the games were competitive, and you can get relegated in that league. So you had to learn a different style of play.
A better system.
There's a lost generation, I think, from 18 to 21. These kids need to be playing men's football straight away.
What's the answer though? You know, if Chelsea have got the money, Chelsea have got the players. What's the answer?
They do need to go out on loan, but much younger, because we've got to create the realism. When you go out on loan and you're in a dressing room and people are talking about bonuses and paying mortgages and all the rest of it, we need to win today, it's life and death. You wake up and you realise the reality of it all. When you're just cocooned at the football club at Chelsea, you know, and everything's done for you, and you're playing occasionally in a 23 game, there's nothing on it. There's no edge to it.
You're right, there's no edge, there's no competitive element. And football at this level is about competition, you know, and that's where you see there's a lot of great young players in academies that are good ball players, but when the competitive part comes around, they're not there. And I think it gets lost. You know, you need to kind of work on that. And I think from 18 to 21, if they're not getting that week in and week out, how are they going to find a way to work on that?
It's not just Chelsea, though, is it? It is football now. Yeah. It's football now. You know, like young lads are playing that nice possession football without a real edge to first-team football and playing against senior pros that have been around the game for a long time and having that real competitive edge to it.
And it probably doesn't help that footballers who've not played a first-team game or played one or two first-team games for top Premier League sides are sold for 15, 18 million pounds. That only adds to their desire to nurture these players and sell them for big money, doesn't it? Right, we're going to have to take a break. I'd love to talk about this for another half an hour, but I can tell you that Stephen Davies is on his way up from the Southampton dressing room, the victorious captain today. Was that your sign for substitution? Martin's like, that means I'm on my... I'm afraid so, but not quite just yet. Get your three-word match reports in. We'll read out some of those after the break, and the Saints captain, Stephen Davies, is in that seat in a couple of moments. See you in a second.
This programme is sponsored by Bet365. This programme is sponsored by Bet365.
Welcome back. It's time to talk about Southampton with their captain. Thanks ever so much for coming up and chatting to us. You haven't even had time to put your trainers on. You've still got your socks on, actually, haven't you? You've not had a shower yet.
Still in the kit yet.
What a way to win a football match that goal was, eh?
Yeah, it was a great piece of individual quality. I think worthy of goal, worthy of winning any game, and obviously a very important game for us with the results that we've had recently.
Frustrating game for long periods. They're a hard old side to break down, West Brom, aren't they?
Yeah, listen, you know exactly what you're going to get. They're going to make it difficult for you to break them down and try and close the gaps. So it was very difficult. It felt like it was going to be maybe one of those days again. We found goals of late a little bit hard to come by, but as I say, that was a goal worthy of winning any game, and delighted for Sophie on a personal level.
As a player out there today, Stephen, as the game went on, how did you feel that the match was going to pan out? Did you have that belief as a team and as an individual player that that goal was coming?
Yeah, I think we did. I think we kept trying to do the right things. We controlled the game for large parts, tried to get in the right areas. Obviously, Bertie's hit the post in the first half, Charlie then in the second half as well. A couple of half chances in between times as well. So you have to just keep trying to get in the right areas, keep trying to do the right things. And obviously, the goal went against the grain in terms of the individual quality, but delighted for him on a personal level. A very important 3 points for us.
Do you think sometimes when you guys have so much possession, remarkably, I mean, you guys almost had 70% at times in this game, do you think sometimes it's hard to find the balance between possession but then still penetrating at times and getting in behind?
Yeah, I think you'd be right in saying that there. They obviously make you, the way they set up, they make you try and force things, play into areas that they feel they can cut it out, and you do that at different times in the game, but it was important just to keep our heads, keep moving the ball. Maybe didn't move it quick enough at times, but whenever we did, we found we got into decent areas and putting balls into their box. They obviously changed and went to 3 at the back then as well at the end to try and shore things up. So I think whenever you win the ball back, especially whenever they're counter-attack, and then you have to try and move it forward quickly to exploit those spaces.
Yeah.
I think the message was clear from Boufal when he scored the goal, wasn't it? I think he'd like to be playing some more football matches at this football club.
Yeah, I think that's frustration. Listen, for any player, if you're not playing, it's difficult, but whenever you get the opportunity, you have to try and make an impact and show why you should be playing. We've obviously got good quality within the team, good competition for places, and that'll do his own personal, on an own personal level for him, no harm at all.
What's he like? What kind of a guy is he?
Listen,
not short on confidence?
No, he's not short on confidence. He can take the ball in short spaces. He's got obviously unbelievable ability. I think for him it's just about learning where to do those tricks in the right areas, and he'll learn over that with time as well. He's still relatively young, but in terms of quality and individual ability, he's got it in abundance.
If he gets it wrong, I'm sure you'll tell him. The manager said post-match, I thought it was interesting, when Des Kelly asked him about Buffal, he said, look, I'm challenging him, and I'm challenging the players. He's the Atkins, Pochettino, Koeman, he's the 5th manager you've played under in 5 years at Southampton. Tell us what he's like as a gaffer.
Yeah, I've enjoyed him since he came in. He's a passionate guy. That rubs off in the players as well. He wants us to try and improve in every area. It goes into details as well. So whenever it comes to games, we're well prepared. We just things haven't quite clicked overall in games so far. I think confidence is obviously a factor as well. It always is in football. And today will do us no harm. It's important now we try and get a little bit of momentum. We've got 2 more games before the next international break, and we can go into the next one against Brighton away with a lot of belief and try and get ourselves to an area in the table where we feel we should be.
We saw him change the formation a little bit and tweak that tonight. Was that something specific for tonight, or just to try and get goals back into the side somehow?
Yeah, I think he's obviously changed it last week, obviously this week as well, and I think it's just about trying to find the balance right. He's probably still figuring out what his best team is, what his best formation is. I think like any good manager, they look at the opposition as well and see where areas you can try and exploit as well. So he's got that level of detail that he goes into. I think obviously tonight it worked quite well, but whether we keep that for the next match, we'll soon find out.
Well, I think the one thing I thought was really positive is obviously keep a clean sheet, but Van Dijk I thought played really, really well tonight. He looked almost back to his best, really confident, assured, good on the ball. I mean, they're positives. Obviously, you need to address maybe scoring more, but defensively, you guys look stronger today. Yeah,
they look solid. Listen, we all know the quality that Virgil's got. I think he's came in for the last few games. People sometimes forget that he's been out since January before that. Obviously, there was all the talk about the summer and missing a little bit of pre-season, which is also another factor. But listen, he's a top quality player. We're delighted that he stayed at the club, and you can see by his level of performance today that he's fully committed. What about Lamina? He looked like an absolute powerhouse in midfield. People were bouncing off him. Yeah, he's been an excellent signing for us so far. He's been one of our best players in the last few weeks. You can see the quality that he's got. Also, as you say, a very powerful boy, and he's got that sort of burst of 5 or 10 yards of pace as well. So he's been a great addition for us.
Let's quickly hear from Tony Pulis. Here are his thoughts on the goal. Have a listen. Good way of putting it. He would have been stopped a bit earlier than that. As soon as we started playing it in home, weren't you just going to say you should have fouled him? I mean, it was one of those moments where you just need to take the player out of the game, wasn't it?
There's scenarios where we've seen in a lot of games on a weekly basis, sometimes a player taking a booking, not quite a sending off maybe, but taking a booking, which is good game management to try and save conceding. How
would Franny Benali have dealt with a player doing that against him?
He'd probably be sitting up here beside us.
He would have ended up somewhere. I want to talk to you about the playoff, the World Cup playoff. Of course, you drew Switzerland. Did you watch the draw happening live? Because there were some big teams in there.
Yeah, literally just getting from training in time to see it. So I think we've got to be happy with it. Listen, there was no easy game for us, but to avoid Croatia and Italy was a big factor for us. But we've been going with real belief. As I say, it's going to be very difficult, but if you had said to us at the start of the campaign we'd have two games to get to a World Cup, we'd have bit your hand off for it.
And you know, when you're in and around the dressing room and you draw a team in a cup or something, the next morning you can chat about it in training. What, are you all on WhatsApp sharing your thoughts about the fixture and stuff?
Yeah, we've got a WhatsApp group between the boys, so there's been a little bit of chat and that, obviously, in the fixtures.
Very good. And that'll be Cap 100?
It will, yeah. It's going to be a special night. Hopefully another memorable night. Obviously back home in front of our home crowd. So hopefully all the boys can come through unscathed. Obviously I don't know what Johnny Evans has done today. I haven't had a chance to pop in the dressing room and see, but hopefully it's nothing too serious.
Get on WhatsApp and find out, hey?
No, I mean, that put you, what, 3rd highest cap player? Is that right?
It will, yeah. It will.
So is there... well, seeing the miles that you cover on a pitch, Stephen, I mean, your energy levels, I mean, that's a massive plus that comes to the side. So, you know, your fitness levels won't be a problem. How long would you like to go for?
Listen, as long as I'm enjoying it, we've been in a great place. It's been a great journey the last few years with the experience at the Euros, and obviously if we can achieve our dream of getting to the World Cup, then that would be massive as well. And I'm always very proud to play for my country and would like to play for as long as possible. That must be one of the most pressurised situations, having a knockout, you know, to get to a World Cup. I mean, do you approach it any different?
any differently, the game?
Listen, I think it's going to be a little bit difficult because the game's on the Thursday, so we don't have a lot of preparation time going into it. So
that might not be a bad thing, though, hey? Just get in and get on.
Listen, we always enjoy going back home. We've got a good record at home as well, so it's you never know. Obviously, the draw, whether it can work in your favour playing at home or away first with away goals. But if we can get ourselves in front and give ourselves a foothold in the game, going out there with something to hang on to, then we'll be in a really good position.
Good man. Look, thanks ever so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
I'm well aware you still haven't had a shower since the game finished, so we're going to let you go and get yourself sorted out. Thanks ever so much.
Cheers,
Stephen.
lads.
A round of applause for the winning captain today. Stephen, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
you. Stay there for about another 10 seconds.
Oh, 10 seconds.
We'll sort of get the mic taken off in an elegant way because you are actually attached to the chair. Right, stay where you are. In a couple of moments, we're going to have the final part of this evening's shortened Premier League tonight. We're going to be talking about owners, football clubs owners, and if you could give yours one message, what would it be? We'll also talk West Ham and share your 3-word match reports. See you in a second. Thanks very much.
Good man, lads. Thank you.
This programme is sponsored by Bet365.
Welcome back. Lots of 3-word match reports coming in. Michael Appleton says Foxes never quit. I'm assuming that's someone pretending to be Michael Appleton on Twitter rather than the real one. Well played Huddersfield, says Walter. Matt says Jose Mourinho out. Someone's replied saying it's one poor performance. He says, I know. I'm a Liverpool fan. 3-word match report for Southampton today. How would you sum it up? We've only got 10 minutes. We have 10 minutes.
I was trying to think of I was positive thinking we were going to get that one goal.
Yeah.
Absolute brilliance to win.
Absolute brilliance to win. You're as bad as Martin Keown in his 2-word match report.
That's why I got a level 3 in CSE.
All right, good try. It's hard on the spot, isn't it? Let's have a look at the goals then from the game last night, West Ham against Brighton. How on earth do West Ham, with all due respect to Brighton, lose 3-0 to a newly promoted team, Owen?
Well, look, set pieces, obviously wasn't much in the game at that point, but set pieces give you a chance. And that's a terrific delivery in, and they've just been poor defensively, but, I mean, this is an absolute stunning goal. Drop of shoulder there, and a brilliant take. No chance, really, for Joe Hart. And I just think then you start committing bodies forward, and you just get picked off. I mean, that's a disastrous result for West Ham, no question.
I think the worrying thing is, apart from Carroll, it was most of the players that the manager would have been looking to get into the team. And there was no hiding place. Yeah. And his interview afterwards was quite telling. He almost seemed like he was on death row afterwards and didn't give a good enough an explanation as to why he should be kept in the job. And he really is. For me, he's on borrowed time now. I don't like to say it about a manager, but I really can't see a way forward with the current team and setup that they have there. Something's going to have to change.
Well, let's get the thoughts of a West Ham fan. This is what Baz Cox thinks.
This football club has lost its heart, its soul, its passion through two people moving us here to this place where we compete. You only compete if you spend that. Without spending that, you don't get any better. I'm a big Slaven Bilic fan. Your time's up, mate. Your time is up. You cannot do anything to defend today. It's finished.
Look, Franny, you played for Southampton when they moved from the Dell, which was an atmospheric old ground, and they came to a very different stadium. Is it the ground, or is there something fundamentally wrong with the way that West Ham are going about things?
I think there's an element of the ground. You know, those old stadiums, the Dell especially, and West Ham are fan, and Baz is a huge West Ham fan. That would be hurting him. But the Dell gave us an opportunity to play against the bigger sides, getting in amongst them. If the crowd were right on top of the pitch as well, it took some adjusting coming here to St Mary's when we did, and there was talk about a curse on the pitch and all kinds at the time. So it does take time to settle into a new surroundings in a modern stadium.
It was only a few weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, we were sitting on this very show, and all three of the opponents in front of me were defending Slaven, defending West Ham, saying they need to stick with the manager. What is changing there to give people the belief that Slaven is the right guy going forward?
Well, look, as Martin said, you know, it's very, very difficult for him. I think everybody likes him as a bloke, and I think he tries to play the right way. But it's whatever the blend of the team is, it's not working. And I'm not really sure what West Ham are, the defensive team or the attacking team. The blend of it isn't really working. And obviously, the issue going into the new ground is one. But clubs need to move forward. You get bigger grounds, you get hospitality, and it's important to create more revenue. You can't stay in the past. I know that ground was one of the hardest to play at, but they're at this ground. Stop making excuses. There are a lot of good players there. They should be able to get a team on the pitch that gets very good results. I'm amazed how poor they are defensively, the amount of goals that they've conceded.
I think if you're a board member, you look at it, I think from memory, they lost the first 3 games of the season. So alarm bells were ringing.
They were all away, weren't they, because of the stadium issue? They played them all away.
They played them all away. Then there was an improvement. Last week they got Carroll was sent off, and you thought, OK, there was going to be a good result there. But to lose 3-0 against Brighton, a newly promoted team who didn't really play with any confidence, certainly the last time I saw them at the Emirates, is almost it just can't happen. It cannot happen, and that creates a crisis.
Well, it is a crisis. We know the board met today, we believe, to discuss Bilic's future. You both struggle on 3-word match reports. Let's go for 1-word answers and see how you do on this. Is it now time for West Ham to make a change?
Well, if it's not the end, it's the beginning of the end.
1-word answer.
I don't like to say someone should go,
but you can say no.
For me, it's over.
So that's... Is it time for West Ham to make a change?
For sure, I believe it is.
Owen, 1-word answer, is it time for West Ham to make a change?
No.
Franny?
No.
OK. Interesting.
I'd like
very patient football players, very patient former football players. West Ham fans, though, perhaps don't feel the same. There were messages yesterday on social media talking about the game. They weren't very positive, and lots of messages for the owners as well. Have a listen to this. This is messages for your owners.
Hi, it's John here. I'm a Spurs fan. My message to the owners would just be keep doing what you're doing, producing great young players, investing in youth, and don't get sucked into paying inflated fees for mediocre players like so many other clubs are doing.
A message to the owners, keep being in the background the way you have been, because you don't hear the Glazers talks about anywhere near like they were when the purchase first happened. I think the main thing is keep backing Jose. You know, we haven't liked the manager change over the last few years. Well, we were used to the Ferguson consistency.
Regardless of Manchester United's success, I will never ever like the Glazers. I will never ever support them and never ever give them my backing.
If Swansea's Facebook page had an owner relationship status, it would be it's complicated.
Dean Oil, what a guy. Started out owning a card factory, turned it into owning a football club, and we'll be forever grateful. So Dean, from me and the thousands of other fans, here's one you made earlier.
I love that. It's a strange thing, isn't it, being the owner of a football club, because when it's all going well and you're spending a lot of your money, then it's great. As soon as it's not going well, the fans have got very little patience for you sticking around. What, in your eyes as an ex-player, what makes a good owner, do you think? Someone that doesn't get involved? Someone who just spends all their money?
Yeah, I think it's you know, putting your faith and belief and trust in the team that are running the football side and the off-pitch side. And I don't think anyone would, from a player management side of things, would want an interfering owner and almost like dabbling and having too much of a say in team selection and things like that. Yeah. And whether that goes on at this level now, who knows? But it's someone that would put the money in, like Sir Jack Walker. That's almost like the romance of it years ago, wasn't it? You know, like someone that was just delighted to have seen the success, putting his money in, almost letting everybody get on and deal with it.
But he picked the right manager, didn't he? The single most important thing is to pick the right manager and then let him manage. And if you don't like him, then you make the changes. But you've got to support people, you've got to trust them, and you've got to believe in the people that work.
Fancy buying a football club, Owen?
I wish I could. If I had the money, I'd be all over it. But
he's so modest. I've seen his head. Right, just let me know. Let me tell you what else is coming your way next Saturday. BT Sports Score from 2:30. Bournemouth against Chelsea next Saturday from 5 o'clock, and then more Premier League tonight. A longer version, the one we love, 8 till 9 as always on Saturday night. But right now, it's time for the boxing. So let me hand you straight to Paul Dempsey.